You fought a lot of Luis Ortiz, a lot of solid heavyweights. Where do you think Jarrell Miller ranks amongst those guys? Like, how difficult of a style or challenge does he present when compared to those guys?
I mean, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I think this was his first loss.
Yeah,
that was his first loss. He's a big guy. He comes forward. He throws a lot of bombs. He brings his weight in. But I see a lot of flaws in him. He opens up a lot. I feel my combinations, the speed, the timing, the counter punching that I do. I feel that's gonna play a lot of part in this fight. But he's ranked pretty good up there. I didn't want to take an easy fight because I want to get back in the rankings fast. So I think this fight was really important, and I thought it was good. I think he's gonna make me look good, But like I said, anything could happen inside that ring. That's why I don't underestimate nobody. I try to work hard. I try to think like this is a championship fight, So I got to do my best in there.
And those are the words of Andy Ruiz as he rates Jarrell Miller up there. I think that Andy Ruiz, fought Jarrell Miller. I think Andy is doing what he's always done. I think, Andy is a guy that he picks fights that either they're flawed or they're old or they look winnable, Now, should I doubt him for that? Well, no, not really. I mean, especially based on, from a promotional standpoint, you shouldn't really do that. But from a fan standpoint, that's exactly what you should do. I think that Andy Ruiz fighting Jarrell Miller after Jarrell Miller took his first loss is no different from Tyson Fury calling out AJ after AJ took his second back-to-back loss, from Alexander Usyk, and then he calls him out. That's pretty much in the same ballpark. And you should really never celebrate that because it just seems like you're doing the same thing over and over again. The pattern has been repeated to the point where you're like, okay, Luis Ortiz, he looked beatable, so let me fight him now. You know what I mean? And, Chris Arreola, he's been beaten, so yeah, let me fight him. Now Jarrell Miller, Jarrell Miller's been beaten. Okay, let me fight Jarrell Miller now. So it's always been something with Andy, and understand this. Both of these guys, I remember a long time ago, they were both undefeated. And they were undefeated, and Jarrell Miller, and Andy Ruiz were on a collision course to go toe-to-toe and head-to-head. That didn't happen. Okay, now I'm not saying whose fault that was, anything like that, because I know Jarrell Miller was offered the Joshua fight, not too long after that, maybe a year or so, because it was back when Andy was undefeated. So this was before the Parker fight. And looking at those guys, and they're finally coming together now, it sounds like a very good idea. I've already done my prediction and fight breakdown of this fight, but what Andy said about, Jarrell Miller leaving his guard open and, different holes in his defense and things of that nature is absolutely true. A lot of times Jarrell Miller just, he blocks punches with his head, and that's really not all that smart. You know what I mean? And I know they're anticipating a fight of Jarrell Miller doing exactly that because that's how Jarrell fights. I think he has no choice. A big guy fighting on the back foot is not the best idea for that size guy. You know what I mean? That's not a good idea. However, that just goes back to the opponent picking, like, hey, they both received the call, but then this is round 2 for Jarrell Miller, so Jarrell Miller must win this fight. It's a must win for Jarrell, then he'll just be a smack talking guy, based on how it goes. If it's a classic, we're just going to want to see it again, and they can big each other up. Because Andy picked a fight that he figured he could win, and then Jarrell Miller was like, okay, I'll be damned if I let you win. And then I'm going to show you that I don't want you to win because I'm going to give it everything that I have. but I think that all comes down to how he trained for this fight. We see Jarrell Miller time and time again, after clip after clip after clip, train and condition himself for this fight. So, you don't really hear too much, or see too much rather, than for Andy Ruiz. You see him on the treadmill, but other than that, you don't see him, doing certain things and combinations, but he's a beautiful combination puncher. He's a hooker. You don't want to get caught with an Andy Ruiz hook. Ask AJ. You know what I mean? But Andy, I did see him looking at this fight as a win-win fight, and it is very winnable for him, but is Jarrell Miller ranked up there? I think what Jarrell Miller did, and was a part of, was more important in how and where he's actually ranked. And what he was a part of was the days of reckoning. He was one of those fighters that was blessed an opportunity to be amongst all the top heavyweights, minus Usyk and Tyson Fury, because they were on a collision course to fight each other anyway, so they weren't there. But other than that, pretty much everyone, probably minus Zhang, you know what I mean? Maybe Zhang and Michael Hunter, weren't, there. So a lot of people were there. So that was a stacked card, and he was, fortunate enough to be on that stacked card. Okay, so I think that is pretty much what set the tone of who is going to be who in the heavyweight division. You know what I mean? So this is pretty much, again, his second fight. So let's anticipate something good. But you guys tell me what you think of Andy Ruiz ranking Jarrell Miller amongst other heavyweights, what it means to him. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.